Welcome to the closing plenary of the Earth System Governance Conference here at Radboud University. And welcome here in the room, and welcome again also online, near and far. As a co-chair of the conference, I have a confession to make. And the confession is, this is my first ESG conference. Oh my God. Indeed. And it's not the last, I hope. Actually, without being the slightest bit biased, I want to say it was a wonderful conference. I had a really good time, and I learned a lot also. And so I do hope there's many more conferences to come for me personally, but also for the community, of course. But the conference is not over quite yet. There's, of course, a task force day tomorrow with many more sessions for some of you. Not everyone is joining. But we also have this closing plenary where we want to bring everything together that we've learned and discussed over the last 3 days. And actually 5 days, because we also had the South-South dialogue on Sunday and the early career event on Monday. So it's been a long week for some of us, but an exciting week as well. So what we'll do today is, or not today, in this last session for the day, is bringing everything together, what we've learned, on and focusing on the conference theme of bridging societies and sciences for sustainability transformations. So we'll do that by presenting the Nijmegen agenda on inter and transdisciplinarity, on transformative inter and transdisciplinarity. And that includes a short presentation of the findings of our survey and the discussions we've had in the last few days, and the draft that we have, of course, prepared already in advance, and a panel discussion with panelists that have looked at the draft agenda and that will reflect on it. And we hope to then also gather your thoughts and comments and questions as well for a discussion after the reflections. But first, we actually have a couple other important points we want to go through. And the first one is the Scientific Steering Committee of the Earth System Governance Project. And I would like to invite Professor Aarti Gupta and, Professor Louis Kotze, who's actually starting for the Scientific Steering Committee. I'd like to ask Louis to come up stage. So Aarti and Louis are the co-chairs of the Scientific Steering Committee. And the floor is yours.
Thank you. And I can also use this, yes?
You can also use it.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for this kind introduction. And it's really a pleasure to be able to say a few closing words of thanks. And I have got the opportunity to give a very brief overview of what the network is, and while the wonderful Aarti Gupta and other colleagues will then take us into a forward vision, looking ahead on what exciting things lies ahead for us. So, who are we? If you don't know this by now, you have not been paying attention this week, of course. We are an expanding, vibrant global network, social scientists. We work in interdisciplinary ways, and we address urgent, critical Earth system transformation issues related to governance, of course. And our research is based on and departs from our science and implementation plan that is also well known. The network has a very long history. We've started in 2007, and you will see on that slide, it's also available on our website, the long transition of events and transformative moments, several IPOs at several institutions, last year the wonderful Toronto conference, and this year, of course, in Nijmegen. And we are very grateful to be able to show this wonderful line of progress, as you also see there, simply in numbers, how this network has grown. And this is a monumental achievement, I think. This year, 557 members, and excluding those that are also informally involved with the network. This year alone, we had 48 new research fellows, 9 new senior research fellows, and we warmly invite those who are not members yet to please send us an email. All details are available on the website to become an official members. More importantly, how can you get involved? So we've got task forces and working groups. That's already been mentioned. Tomorrow's the task force day. Most of you here in the room will be involved with those. We really encourage you to become also involved if you are not. And our task forces and working groups really give us an opportunity to focus on specific issues that are interesting and relevant to the people in this network. We are particularly very proud of our publications. The Earth System Governance Journal, I'll say something a bit more a little bit later, 17 volumes to date. We've got 15 Cambridge Elements, 11 Cambridge University Press books, and 19 MIT Press books. That's quite an achievement. And of course, this is not including all of the other publications that all our members do in other outlets. Specifically on the Earth System Governance Journal, very proud to say that in a matter of only a few years, we are now a top-tier Q1 journal in the Journal Citation Indicator Ranking Index, and we've got now an impact factor of 5.6. Open access journal, so we disseminate research, open access, which of course is important. We warmly invite you to contribute to this. We also have research centers spread all over the world, regionally. If you want to establish a research center, please get in touch with us. The details, again, are on the website. And these regional centers really give us an opportunity to focus within institutions and issues focused on regional activities. We've got several other activities that you can become involved in. Many of those we've already done during this conference. Early career activities, the mentoring activity, initiative rather, and we will start with the 2024 recruitment in November. So keep an eye on our communication channels. And of course, the now very well-driven and exciting South-South initiative, where we have with scholars in the Global South, various webinars, special issue publications, workshops, and of course, the annual conference. And now for the much more exciting part is looking ahead. Aarti, please.
Thank you very much. And it's a little sad that things are drawing somewhat to a close. But of course, there's always something cooking at ESG. So what's, in addition to all the ways that individuals can get involved in all of the ways that Louis laid out, and groups of individuals, we can collaborate and get involved in different ways. Even your institution can get involved by being a research center. But what else can we do? And what are the other unique, opportunities? So let me point to one of those that's coming up now. And also then, of course, there's that very exciting question about where is the next ESG conference and when can we all see each other again? So with that, let me first talk about this unique opportunity that I mentioned. So the ESG International Project Office is in transition. You might have heard about the IPO. You've encountered Jane and Camille and Farah. And the IPO is the vital sort of beating heart of the ESG network. As we said, it's the administrative cornerstone of our network. It institutionally supports all of these diverse and exciting activities that we do, also between conferences, but also supports the conferences. And here's a unique opportunity to actually be the next host of the ESG IPO. So what we'd like to do here first is to give heartfelt thanks to Utrecht University, which has hosted the ESG IPO for the last 5 years. Before that, it was Lund University in Sweden, also heartfelt thanks to them. And now, so with this, of course, comes the opportunity to be the next face of the ESG network's institutional home. So we hope that there are many people here who get very excited about this possibility and will immediately go to our website and check out how this can be done, how you can express an interest in this. And we welcome, as the SSC and the ESG network as a whole, because this is something all of us want to keep going in the same way that we have so far and reach ever greater heights. So we welcome expressions of interest from the community about hosting the next IPO and profiling your institution as the place which hosts this vibrant international network. So with that, I would like to then address the question of where is the next ESG conference, or rather, should we say what is the next ESG conference? And for that, I would like to invite Professor Chucks Okereke, Chucks, to share with us this, and also member of the Scientific Steering Committee. Chucks, please, you get to. Yes. Should I please?
Well, whilst the IPO is in transition, we still felt that we cannot wait to continue to have the sort of intellectual stimulation and exchange that we have heard, which I think have benefited almost all of us here throughout this week. So the next ESG conference is going to be predominantly virtual, and the theme we have chosen is reimagining governance in an era of polycrisis. Now, since 2020 till now, we have grown in our confidence of the ability to mount a very good virtual meeting or conference or forum where we will hope to be able to replicate a vibrant exchange and presentations and learning opportunity as we have done here. But there's going to be a slightly different way that we will approach it. So there will still be a core center organized by the ESG and the SSC, with me leading and my group. But then we also expect a co-created set of activities at the various regions, centers, and task forces. So we will be providing more details on the way we're going to do it next year as soon as possible. We invite you to really stay tuned and to work with us. You all know that we are now witnessing an unprecedented co-concurrence of various crises, whether it's the war in Ukraine and the Hamas-Israel conflict, and the growing crisis in our climate, emissions continue to rise, diversity crisis, etc., etc. And of course, there are so many unhidden wars that don't get as much emphasis as the two I mentioned. So in this kind of situation, how do we reimagine Earth system governance? And so we will be communicating you in due course, and we hope to engage with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chucks. And I think this is going to be very, very exciting because it'll also be even more inclusive than we have been and we continue to be. So everybody can engage from all parts of the globe. You don't have to get onto that mode of transport that you may not wish to for next year. But of course, we want to then again meet in person as well. So then the question is, what happens in 2025? And so on that front, again, what we want to do is we are in conversations with we have some lovely destinations in mind, and you'll hear about those very, very soon. But meanwhile, we also want to open it up. We want to be much more institutionalized and more transparent. Of course, we are very transparent, always have been, but we want to make this a more institutionalized process where everybody, our growing community, has the opportunity to put in a bid to host the next ESG conference. So we have also this, there'll be information on our website, or if you want to host the next conference in 2027, 2028, or looking ahead, you should feel free to get in touch with us and plan ahead. But for this, I would also like to very briefly, I don't see Fari Boselli, another member of the Scientific Steering Committee, to just say one word. Burka, we are very conscious of the time. 1 minute on the conference.
Right on. Well, thanks very much, Aarti. And my first word is close. Because if you like to do that again, I would like you to close your eyes, like we did a few days ago. And we're going to take 3 steps in a little journey. I first want you to go back in time to yesterday, to the smashing conference dinner we had, to the wonderful atmosphere we felt there. Now, if you didn't drink too much there, you may also remember the sounds of happy cows. If you drank even a bit less, you may also remember the fantastic panels we had here, the great discussions, the corridor talks, and this great feeling of a community. So on the second step, I want you to go even further back in time. This is the 15th time we're meeting, so let's go back to some unforgettable memories. Let's go back to 2014 in Norwich, when we were addressed by King Charles, formerly known as Prince. Or 2013 by then Crown Prince Naruhito, who's now also king. 2015, we were in the Canberra Hills. 2016, we were in Nairobi National Park. That leads me to a third step. Now imagine the future, 2-3 years from now, 4-5 years from now. Imagine you are welcoming yourself as a conference chair, as a conference manager, or in any other central role, this thriving and precious community to your university, to your city, to your department, you're shaping the discussions there, and you're helping uniting this community and advancing it further, because we need to keep renewing ourselves. Now you can open your eyes again in case you ever close them. So if you could see yourself in that role somehow, as a key part of that future, then please get in touch. You can get in touch with me, with the SSC in general. Also get in touch with your infrastructure, with the people at your department, with colleagues that may be interested in joining hands with you, your head of department, your mayor, right? Check about logistics, check about support structures, and of course check in with us. Tell us about your ideas, about venue, about timing, about the input you need. And we will keep this together. We'll keep a roster with expressions of interest, and with that we are looking forward to the next 15 years of ESG conferencing. Thank you.
All right, thanks very much to all of you from the steering committee to give us an outlook for what is to come in the future and how to reimagine that future. Then, as the next agenda point for this session, I would like to introduce the Owen R. Young Prize that the ESG community or project has been awarding for cutting-edge research on Earth system governance by early career scholars. And I would like to call up Professor Katharine Rietig to the stage for the prize ceremony. Katharine is the chair of the prize committee, and I hand over the microphone to you.
Thank you very much, Birka. So it is my pleasure to announce the Owen Young Prize, but a very brief word on the great work that Owen Young, as the godfather of our Earth system governance community, has really started. Many of our research stands in his tradition, and also all of the prizes that have been awarded over the many years in the past and now also going into the future. So a very, very big thank you, a heartfelt thank you to the great work the Owen Young Prize Committee has done. Frederick Arthur Armour, Yushu May by John Dreisek, Matt Hoffman, Letizia Marino, Susan Park, Priti Sharma, and Birka Wicke. Thank you very much for the great work you have done to find the best winner among a very strong field of 19 submissions. So the Owen Young Prize goes to Veronica de Witt on our pluriversal futures, anticipation and imagination in the Amazon from the Institute of Social Science at the University of Lisbon in Portugal. Veronica, I hope you are watching us online. Unfortunately, she's not here today, but thank you very much for such a wonderful paper and congratulations on a wonderful achievement. And I have a very special speaker that is coming up next, which is the very young Owen Young, and he has some laudatio prepared, reviewing Veronica's paper and highlighting its great contribution that it is making to our Earth system governance community on research.
It's a real pleasure to be able once again to offer a few observations about a paper that has won the Orr and Young Prize. Monica DeWitt has written a very appealing paper focusing on the role of ideas, narratives, worldviews, shared visions in shaping our thinking about human-environment relations and about the precepts that should or do guide our thinking about human actions affecting the environment. Commendably, she grounds her analysis of these matters in real-world examples, specifically alternative vision narratives regarding a sustainable Amazon in 2050. Of course, Franica recognizes the links between vision narratives and power. Dominant or hegemonic actors typically impose their preferred narratives on weaker or subordinate groups. This is the essence of colonialism, which is not far below the surface, even when we give lip service to alternative views. As she shows, this is very much in evidence in our thinking about sustainable development. But what happens if we set aside pressures to reach consensus on a shared vision of the future? This opens up the idea of the pluriverse and the opportunity to engage in pluriversal futures thinking. Using the case of the Amazon, she shows how this way of thinking leads to the identification of 5 vision narratives regarding a sustainable Amazon. Among other things, thinking about these alternatives leads us to an awareness of the deep epistemological and ontological roots of our thinking about a subject like sustainable development, and to an increased appreciation of the perspectives of excluded or marginalized groups, for example, indigenous peoples. This is essential if we are to make progress in addressing the importance of what she calls recognitional justice. The challenge before us is to find ways to ensure that the lens of the pluriverse is brought to bear effectively in high-level settings like the 2023 Sustainable Development Goals Summit. This will not be easy. The urge to dominate is just as prominent in competitions about ideas as it is in other realms. But given the growing climate emergency and our inability to come to grips with other challenges of planetary governance, the need to think hard about alternative visions of the future has never been more imperative.
So, as the 2023 Earth System Governance Conference, we hope to leave a legacy in the form of the Nijmegen Agenda for Transformative Inter- and Transdisciplinarity. And this agenda responds to a critical moment of accelerating climate change, deteriorating planetary health, biodiversity loss, growing inequalities. Just a few of the challenges that urgently require collaboration between a multiplicity of actors and knowledge systems. Collaboration is urgently needed, but at the same time, collaboration is not easy and it carries risks that cannot be ignored. The Nijmegen Agenda will aim to foster transformative collaboration between disciplines and societal actors. Transformative collaboration does not only respond to the needs and questions arising from academia, but to real-world environmental and social challenges. Inter- and transdisciplinarity was woven in the fabric of this conference, and in many ways, this is the beginning of the Nijmegen Agenda. During the conference, we have collected ideas for inter- and transdisciplinarity and priorities in ESG on overarching principles, key areas for collaboration, opportunities and challenges and limits and risks. We devised different ways for input into the process. We have collected your input through panels, including a World Cafe, harnessing your collective wisdom. You must also have seen our survey by now, a critical part in our process to collect inputs from different disciplinary backgrounds and societal groups. Together with the Earth System Governance Project's Scientific Steering Committee, we will further engage with different actors beyond this conference as well, and we will share a complete draft in about a month. Our survey is still in progress, but let me share a snapshot. An overwhelming majority of you agree that inter- and transdisciplinarity are essential. It's also important to note, however, that the Earth System governance community is not doing too bad. Almost half of you agree that more inter- and transdisciplinarity is necessary. And indeed, it seems like more can and should be done. For instance, trans and interdisciplinarity can benefit from interfaces beyond annual conferences, as well as journals and publishers who can play an important role in driving collaborations. At the same time, we need to ask what makes inter- and transdisciplinarity transformative. Inter- and transdisciplinarity may do little or even aggravate structural inequalities and underrepresentations. And inter- and transdisciplinary cooperation is not a goal unto itself. It was clear from our opening session and from our semi-plenary that it takes courage, that it takes the will to emancipate. It takes humility to learn from other disciplines, from people and non-humans. It takes openness to consider different perspectives, including breaking through persistent anthropocentrism and the growth paradigm. It takes courage to leave our own lanes and work outside our comfort zones. It takes creativity to apply new methods, to sometimes literally draw pathways. It takes persistence to learn skills, to connect across disciplines and with all kinds of societal actors. It takes trust to jointly move from our discussions here to societal practice. And finally, it takes care to listen, especially from underrepresented disciplines, people, and non-human actors. Of course, it will take much more to articulate the values and priorities for transformative inter- and transdisciplinarity. And I hope that you will remember us not only for our fantastic weather, but also for the Nijmegen agenda. And as you make your way home, I would like to ask you to take your phones out now. Yeah, do you have your phones out? All right, switch the camera on, the photo camera on. Yeah? You don't need to take a picture of me. Okay, follow this link. Follow this link. Open this link on your browser. Don't start filling out the survey now, because we're in a session, yeah? But keep it open in your browser, and as you make your way home, please fill out this survey. We need to hear your voice, and your voice matters for understanding whether, how, and under which circumstances Earth system governance should be bridging sciences and societies for sustainability transformations. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. There's the microphone. Thank you, Sander, and thank you for emphasizing the urgency of filling out the survey. We will keep this up for a little bit longer so that I'm sure all of you had the chance to actually scan it. Sander, thank you also for your reflection on the agenda and showing an overview of where we are at this time. And I want to also thank you all for the input that we have received already, but again, we need more input to really have a representative input from the community. We have also asked 4 panelists that I would like to ask to come up to the podium that will reflect on the agenda. They've seen a draft version of written text already, so if I could ask you to come up to the podium already. And they will give a very short reflection each on the agenda. And then, yeah, please have a seat wherever you feel comfortable. And then we will start with one question, and then I will open the mic to the audience as well. So you will be invited to join any thoughts and comments as well. Give that to you. Our first panelist is Professor Sarah Burch from the University of Waterloo, where she's the Executive Director of the Waterloo Climate Institute. And Sarah, I would like to ask you to start with a reflection on the agenda.
Wow. Okay, I'll just kick it right off. Thank you very much. So glad to be here. You may or may not know that I was one of the co-hosts of the Toronto conference last year and came down sick with COVID about one day before the conference began. So I'm really thrilled to be here with you all exactly 1 year later and have this opportunity to speak about this important legacy and work on the Nijmegen agenda. Inter and transdisciplinarity are 2 very different ideas. They require different skills and different methods. So I'm going to focus entirely on transdisciplinarity rather than interdisciplinarity, because I think we could have 2 sets of conversations about these methodologies or approaches to research. So one thing that struck me over the week, I guess, was that we are kind of stretching for a collective shared definition of what transdisciplinarity is in our community, in the Earth System Governance community. There are principles of transdisciplinarity or methodological approaches that we might find from sustainability science and other domains that are quite well established, but I think we need to reflect on those in our own context. So those principles for me, and this is certainly at the core of work that I do in Canada and around the world, in sustainability science, transdisciplinary work is intended to be deeply reflexive. That's not unique to transdisciplinary work, but that is part of it. Integrative, of course, so weaving together different types of knowledge, different knowledges, to sort of build in a gestalt fashion across those different approaches. It is deeply community engaged and partnership driven work. Not all interdisciplinary work, for instance, is community engaged scholarship. So that is something that is unique to transdisciplinarity, or characteristic rather of transdisciplinarity. And those partnerships shape the research from the beginning. It's not something that you tack on at the end as a knowledge mobilization tool. You, in fact, define the problem that you are researching through the lens of and in deep partnership with community organizations, partnerships, whatever, small businesses that I work with a lot, government actors, et cetera. So you have to listen to what those groups tell you the problem is, rather than imposing your own view of what the problem might be. So that changes the work. Social and environmental benefit are explicit aims of transdisciplinary work. They are intentional goals, not happy accidents of this kind of work. But then, to move on, not all transdisciplinary work is necessarily transformative. We might have a social benefit or an environmental benefit out of our work, like, let's say, enhanced recycling practices. That is, I hate to say it, not necessarily transformative of values, deeper worldviews, systems of power, decision-making processes, the sort of deeper leverage points. So I think collectively we need to reflect a bit on that intersection, how transdisciplinary approaches and methods collide with our desire to amplify, to accelerate desirable transformations. So then the question, I sort of return then to really helpful tools like Janella Meadows' leverage points, rather than working on flows of resources, flows of materials, sort of those superficial changes. How is our work opening up a space to challenge power structures, to make visible our values, to shift the purpose of organizations, to really trigger those deeper transformative changes? So those are the questions that we're asking ourselves. And then what is our role? What is our role as researchers if we have shed the premise that never was true, that we are objective, distanced holders of truth that we bring to communities and share with them? If we are no longer that as researchers, what role do we play? So that's sort of an existential question for you all to take home with you and lose sleep over. But I just want to finish by saying the Earth System Governance community, we have a deep attunement to power, to justice, a bent towards work that unpacks deep injustices and uneven distribution of power and the influence of authority and legitimacy and decision making that isn't true of sustainability science or socio-technical transitions or other fields. So we have a lot to bring to this equation. And I think this agenda is a collective effort to push us towards articulating that for ourselves and foster this kind of work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And thank you for also emphasizing the unique characteristics that transformative transdisciplinarity will actually have to have. Thank you for those remarks. And then our second panelist is Aarti Gupta. You've already met her earlier in the session and probably many other times before. Aarti, please share your thoughts.
Thank you very much, Burch. And it wasn't my idea to be yet again in this closing plenary, but thank you for the invitation. And I'll just, so I understand we have 5 minutes. So I just wanted to make sort of 5 just points with both the ESG SSC hat on, but then also, as I understand, my individual researcher hat on. So just from the ESG SSC perspective, we really welcome this initiative from the Radboud team, and we applaud all the effort that has gone into this. It's very, very timely. Of course, also something that Sarah also emphasized, the ESG network has been concerned about transdisciplinarity, interdisciplinarity from the very outset. Of course, it's in our science plan, it's in the diversity of work that we do. And in the 2018 science plan, we talk about ESG in society. So this is, of course, something that is very important to the community. But that said, this initiative from Nijmegen and the Nijmegen agenda provides a really welcome impetus for us for the ESG community to continue to engage with these crucial issues of interdisciplinarity, transdisciplinarity, and again, as Sarah said, very different conversations. So in my remarks, I'm also focusing on, I'll just call it TD, and that might save me a few seconds. And I think also to push conceptual and practical boundaries to address these timely, ever more timely, but also very thorny issues. And so on the thorny issues front, I think leads me to my second point, that, and there I put my own individual researcher hat back on, and just to reflect a little bit on the content of the Nijmegen agenda on transdisciplinarity, but also on transdisciplinarity more generally. And yeah, sorry, I have to turn the page. My starting point on these issues and to look at questions of transdisciplinarity is always through a lens of politics, a political lens. So you talk in this agenda, or well, I mean you in a most broad sense, all of us who are together putting this agenda together, of transformative TD. But what is that? What is transformative TD? How do we do it? Who gets to do transformative transdisciplinarity? In what way? and who's transformative, transdisciplinarity. My entry point into these kinds of questions is to look at them through a political lens and a critical perspective, one that, and this is a perspective that animates all of my research and my worldview, a perspective that politics makes the world go round. And basically what I mean by that is, of course, the age-old questions of who gets what and how much, who decides, who wins, who loses, who has a, why are things the way they are, and who has a say. So the politics of transdisciplinarity, and I think that is about questions of access and power, and about the structural inequalities within which engagement and access takes place. I'm just looking at Burch. If I'm overshooting, please tell me. So I think we talked about cakes that are shrinking and who gets a piece of the pie. But if we also think about tables, who has a seat at the table, who's sitting at the head of the table, who's not at the table, who's, from the outside looking in. I think those are the critical questions that we need to address when we think about transdisciplinarity. And what I have chosen to do, so I don't see myself as a sort of transdisciplinary scholar, but my engagement with this has been, not to try to address these questions of exclusion, marginalization through all of the wonderful work that happens around citizen juries, deliberative democracy, etc., but rather to shine a light on those who are at the table. I think it's a very laudable endeavor to try to bring in those who are not, but to shine a light on those who are at the table is also, for me, I think, a crucial issue, because that is also crucial to transdisciplinarity, because it sets the terms of debate. So in my own work, I have tried to look at, for example, the politics of expertise. There are many powerful actors who are at the table. I choose to look at the role of experts, and also how, and this is related to different types of knowledges, etc., and how those shape from our perspective, the governance landscape as well, how who's at the table, expert forms of knowledge, the politics of expertise, governing by expertise, how that shapes, how it frames very contested issues, and how it transfers very politically fraught issues into a technical realm, and what are the political implications of that. I should be ending now. So I'm happy to discuss this during the discussion, and to just say that I think a critical perspective of this kind is also absolutely essential to the kind of social impact that we want to have. Thank you.
Thank you, Aarti. Thank you so much for adding these additional elements, for taking a critical perspective on transdisciplinarity if we really want it to be transformative. Our third panelist is Sandra Pellegrim. She was also in the semi-plenary earlier, and we thought we'd take up the opportunity to also invite her to this panel, because we did not only want to have academics on stage, but we also want to look further than that. And Sandra Pellegrim is the Dutch coordinator of the SDGs for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And Sandra, thank you so much for coming here today. And we look forward to hearing your thoughts on the agenda.
Yeah, thanks. My role basically is not just for the Foreign Ministry. I'm the let's say the national coordinator for the national implementation of the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals in the Netherlands. So I work from the side of the Foreign Ministry, but with all the other ministries together. It's basically mostly about national politics. And I think I'm here basically as your customer, right? I mean, it's good to involve the view of the stakeholders, of the customers, because as governments, I think we really need more interdisciplinary, more transdisciplinary work from your side. So I'm very much, I'm very happy with this process and with this agenda. And basically, I mean, 3 reasons why we need it. We discussed this afternoon already that, this transitions that we are in, standing still is not an option. We know we need to do this. We know we need to move forward. This is also what the SDG agenda is about. But it's not easy. I don't think we have very much many ready-made solutions for the changes and the transformations that we are have started to make and that we are continuing to make into the future. And I think we all recognize that you cannot approach these transformations, these big challenges in society in silos, because all these issues are interrelated. So the solutions we find also need to be interrelated. So this is really what we look towards the scientific community for, is to provide us as policymakers, as decision makers, with knowledge, with methods, with tools, with information, with insights about all these difficult issues and things that are really important for us to understand better and to have a better way of dealing with is the interlinkages between different goals. Cost-benefit analysis in the here and now, but also, between different countries and into the future. We need information about the type of governance, the type of leadership, and how do you get there that is needed in order to drive these transformations. This afternoon we discussed the effects on, our democratic system. Polarization, what is it? How big is it? Where is it? All these issues are crucial in the coming years, and we really look towards science for helping us understand that and to give us tools and ideas on how to deal with them. Do we actually use it then? That's my second point. I think we also need to include continuously working with each other to see how we can actually use all these things that science is producing as best as we need to. I think I have a couple of good examples where, we discussed the UN report, the Global Sustainable Development Report that comes out every 4 years, scientific report with concrete advice to governments. We actually used it in the Netherlands, the 2019 GSDR, to structure our national reporting to Parliament on the SDGs along the lines of 6 transitions as recommended by the GSDR. We also work very closely with the Planning Agency for the Environment, who organized the previous session. They produce, very interesting science that we actually use for our policies. But I also think we also need to continue to search for ways in which this can be, this exchange, science policy interface, buzzword, in which we can do it even better and also very timely, because I think the essence is also in the timing of policy making. And how do you bring in the scientific knowledge at the exact right moment when we are making policies? And, in a political civil servant system, this is often, there's a rush, there's and to take the time and to have the time and to find the right information is a challenge. Then the next challenge is not just a science policy interface, science policy society interface. Around the SDGs, for instance, huge movement in the Dutch society with businesses, with local governments, young youth organizations, NGOs, knowledge institutions, also need to see how you can sort of provide all this exchange and insight with the society side. Finally, and I'll finish then, the next frontier for me, I think, is also the way that you cooperate in the scientific community. And I think it was mentioned already, but also there I hear that there's a lot of need for innovation, a lot of innovation actually. Because I think a lot of as you write in the Nijmegen agenda, also a lot of the funding is in, silos. How do you get out of the fragmentation? How do you scale up? And how do you also collaborate in a new way? And I think the Inner Development Goal agenda is really very much in line with the things that Sander presented, the skills and the way of doing things that also needs to change if we want to be truly transformative. And then I would say that, great minds don't think alike, preferably not. Great minds think together.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry. Thank you, Sandra, for your reflection and actually putting the agenda in context, right? Understanding why or talking about why we actually need it and how this agenda can contribute to that need for knowledge and distribution of that knowledge. So then we come to our fourth panelist. It is Dr. Inaya Rahmani, the director of the Asia Research Center of the Universitas Indonesia. And Inaya, we look forward to your thoughts.
Thank you, Burka. The easiest is to end the very good 3 speakers, and beginning with agreeing with all of their points also makes my job easier. So I'll begin with a bit of a personal tale about being trained in social and political sciences in Indonesia, where universities are inherited by colonial regimes as much of the countries in the global south. The way we understand sciences, the way we were modernized to understand what is objective, what is true, what is truth-seeking, were taught to us by a different nation. And one of the key terms in the opening of the Nijmegen agenda is climate change, acceleration of climate change, biodiversity loss, and inequality. And in many of the islands within the largest archipelago and one of the highest, with the highest biodiversity in the world, Indonesia, but there's also the Amazon forest and also the Congo Basin, inequalities occur together with climate change and occurs together with biodiversity loss. Because as industries come in, extractive relationships come in from the more industrialized island of Java where I live, where education, literacy, technology, access to internet is centered on that island, leaving the eastern parts of Indonesia very vulnerable to new kinds of extractive relationships within the country. So when we talk about inequality, it's not only between the global north and global south. I consider many of my allies in the global north friends and also fighters along the same, trying to achieve the same goal. And by virtue of speaking the same language, by virtue of having read and having access to Western education, also we're creating new kinds of inequalities with people who live in nomadic societies, nomadic groups, whose livelihoods and ways of life are more attuned to hydrological and geological cycles that we have left behind in the past 100 to 300 years. And I would like to close my response to things that were not made explicit in the agenda, because I think it should give direction and ideal roadmap towards which we can walk together. But at the same time, we need to also unpack the kinds of power relations that work within our own institutions, our own universities, our own think tanks, with whom we cooperate with. I agree with Sarah, that when we collaborate, we don't come with a top-down approach, assuming that we know what the problem is. It takes a lot of listening, it takes a lot of paying attention to and changing our own opinions about our research problem. And it's a lot of legwork and care work that usually is not incentivized by the places we work in. So with that, I would like to hope for more alternative voices in the sciences community. Traditionally in Indonesia, if any of you are here, we began with transdisciplinary because sciences was developed as part of pre-independence and independence movement. So what we know is working with civil society, working with allies within the governments. So when talking about transdisciplinarity, historically, that's where we began. And what we need in some of the countries of the post-colonial world is actually to have academic and scientific rigor to help us stand on our own 2 feet, equal, and have equalizing relationships with those outside of the scientific communities with alternative ways of knowledge and knowing with more sustainable practices and lifestyles. Hope that suffices.
Yeah, thank you so much, Inyana. Could you hold on to it for a second? Hold on to it, yeah. So thank you so much, Inyana, for also pointing the way forward, right? From that we can learn from research experience in Indonesia, and for the topics that we should, or the characteristics that we should be aware of, and that we should further define and make sure that we also apply them when we do transdisciplinary research, and especially for transformations. So I prepared a lot of questions, but I'm not going to ask all of those questions. I would like to start off with one question, and then I will open up to the floor to the audience. So, Inyana, you actually also started with it, but I would like to ask any of you that is willing to answer that question. What are the consequences of this importance of transdisciplinarity for our research and teaching? So, for us as academics, but also what role does it have, do academics have in society when we realize how big these transformations are that we actually need to undergo. So who's willing to start on that question?
I'll be very brief, more from an outsider perspective. I do think that there's also a need for all different types of students, not just academic students, but also primary, secondary education, practical vocational training, practical universities, for all students to be able to think outside of their own box. I think there's a lot of need for specific knowledge, but everyone with specific knowledge in the future will also need to be able to link up to other issues. And I also personally think that will help us to, for every person to be able to be a world citizen, in the sense of understanding that all these things and all of us are interrelated.
Sure. So I would add, in terms of the consequences for our teaching and research of transdisciplinary work, community engaged scholarship takes time. Relationships, trust, these are not. They're slow to build and quick to lose. You can break trust very quickly, and we want to, deal head on with a history of extractive research, with a tradition of extractive research. We make our careers, by parachuting into communities and extracting insights and benefiting from those. Not we, obviously, but people have. I'm kidding. So this takes time to shift how we do work, and it is often not rewarded as directly, because it's tough to measure. It's, all of our metrics fail to capture how this work plays out and the benefit of it, but I think we can do a better job at telling stories around what community impact looks like and what relationships take to build. I think we also need to embrace failure a little more. Experiments go awry, and relationships go south or north or whatever, also go awry. And that is part of the beauty of the process, and I think we need to welcome that a little bit more. But I would just put a plea out there that transdisciplinarity does, in my view, require a new set of skills that we might not all have yet, and we need to deepen those skills and those methods and allow this word to carry some weight and be something new and powerful and integrative and inclusive, and challenge ourselves to do it well, because this is dangerous territory if we're not taking it seriously and just sort of blatantly, in a blasé way, moving into communities and pretending to do this work. So I think it's important to challenge ourselves to do it well.
Thank you, Sarah. So now I would like to open up the floor. Who has a comment, a thought, or a question that they would like to share? Who has the mic? Could you come down? There's a question right here. It's right there in the middle. And if I can see a couple of hands already, then I'll point the microphone people. There's one up there. Okay.
Yes. Thank you so much. My name is Anissa Trianti. I'm from Utrecht University. I have a question. I think that's in line with some of the speakers' statements about looking inward. I think, Inaya, you mentioned that as well, how we look into our own institutions, in terms of enabling us to do transformative transdisciplinary research. I think I'm coming from the academic perspectives, and I think transdisciplinary research will not flourish without actually changing the science paradigm. Of course, it's not to challenge the importance of the fundamental research, but also to open up possibility for transdisciplinary type of research to develop more. So my question is maybe relates to those of you who are coming from the academia, from the science system, but also broadly to the ESG community. So what kind of a concrete role we can do to break this science paradigm, let's say, to be more transformative to look into the quality of science in terms of impact, because of course, I mean, in our career, we are measured by how many publications that we published, or how much money that we got for our research. So what kind of a concrete ways to break this type of science, traditional science paradigm? So that's my question. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And there is a second question up there that we'll take right now as well.
Okay, yeah, it relates to Sarah's last point about developing skills that we might be lacking. And so a question for the whole panel, do you have ideas of these skills that we are lacking or are underdeveloped, and how can we develop them?
Thank you. Who would like to respond?
Well, I think, yeah, the question, thank you for those questions, and also for your question, Burka. I think for me, how do my foray into transdisciplinarity, and also, what the implications might be for my own research and for my own teaching, but also in terms of skills needed. My own foray into this has been to sort of not stop just at, so you're doing your research, you're doing your critical research, you have a perspective, you put it out in a published article, but in recent years I find that that is not enough. And so my attempt at transdisciplinarity has been to embrace sort of the mantle of scholar activism. We had a panel on this earlier today. And this is, of course, a very fraught word. It's a confronting word. Some people embrace it. Some are very wary of it within academia. But I think for me, the core element of transdisciplinarity and doing transdisciplinarity is then to be transparent about our normative assumptions and stands and standpoints. And we all have those, of course, our normative and political perspectives, and what animates our research agendas, etc. And so I think being transparent about those is a starting point for transformative transdisciplinarity. And of course, there are many examples of how one can try to do that. And I have attempted it in the area of this very controversial issue around solar geoengineering, and to try to bring my perspective into this policy and societal debate. And that also implicates a lot of skills that academics might be lacking about, how to engage in controversial issue areas with the media and confront those who might be very unhappy with what you're saying. So I think there's certainly skills and comfort zones that you're transcending, but to me that's a vital component of transdisciplinarity, how academics engage, put themselves out there as well, not just, in addition to co-production and cooperation with societal partners.
Thank you, Aarti. Anybody else that would like to respond?
It's also useful to look to respond to your question. It's also useful to look to the structures and resources available, so that pre-existing coping strategies across communities and civil society organizations working on that locality. Because we're coming in from universities or urban areas, talking to people and trying to understand their experience, and our task is to unpack that and make sure it reaches policymakers. But from the perspective of people living there, we're just people coming and going, and it can happen like 10 times in the same year. But if we work with local universities and we have the Tridharma scheme, teaching, research, and community engagement, we can make sure that our community engagement resources that is available annually can link directly with community initiatives. So we make sure that it's institutionalized and the resources that are always there is redistributed. So politics of redistribution rather than politics of representation.
I would just add a quick answer to the question of concrete ways to break the system. Burn it all down. Those of you with power, those of you in positions of influence with secure jobs and labs and funding and students, you have an enormous amount of influence on how scholarship is judged, on how new scholars are evaluated. Excuse me. And we at the University of Waterloo, for instance, in the Canadian context, we have new and emerging sets of criteria by which we might evaluate the impact of Indigenous-led scholarship, for instance, to explicitly acknowledge that community-based partnerships impact on the ground. Indigenous ways of knowing are honored over and above of citation counts and papers, and that there is a direct trade-off in terms of time and effort between those two things, and that can be recognized. In terms of the skills that we need to build, maybe I would just bring it back to some of the things that Sandra put up on the screen. There are some qualities, perhaps, like humility is a really important one. And I also think, not to diminish the seriousness of the crises that we're grappling with, but playfulness and imagination in our conception of what solutions might look like and what the diverse, sustainable futures might appear to be. I think those are qualities that we can invigorate and that we can cultivate. Systems thinking, of course, the arts, storytelling, gaming. There's so many ways to engage with how connections materialize between the work, the areas, the issues that we work on and the areas that we work in. Anyway, I'd leave that for you to think about.
Thank you, Sarah. I think that was actually a really nice closing statement for the panel. And I would like to thank you all so much for taking the time to read through the agenda and then coming to share your thoughts. And again, I invite everyone to stay in touch with us about the agenda and continue the discussion, including giving feedback on a draft agenda that we'll be sharing later this year. So thanks again. And although I'm sure we could continue discussing a lot longer about the Nijmegen agenda, we all are getting tired. It's been a long day today, as we had said earlier already. So it's now about time to start wrapping up this session. And for that, we have two more events or agenda points. And to start, I would like to invite the rector of Radboud University, Professor José Sanders, to provide some closing remarks. Professor Sanders is Professor of Communication in Organizations, and she started her term as rector of the university just last week. And so we are very pleased and happy that she could join us in this very busy schedule in the second week to come here today and be with us and be with the Earth System Governance community and to share your thoughts actually also on the Nijmegen agenda and on the conference in general. So please come forward.
Thank you very much, and I'm really honored to be here, and it's a great pleasure to feel the great vibe in this wonderful conference. First of all, let me thank all the participants who came here from all over the world, and also to the online participant of this wonderful conference. Thanks to the Radboud Center for Sustainable Challenges, who, in collaboration with Earth System Governance Project, host and organized this conference, to Ingrid Visseren and Bieke, the co-hosts, to the conference managers, and all the wonderful volunteers without whom this would not have been possible. You've gathered here in Nijmegen. It is the oldest city in the Netherlands. You wouldn't say it if you were here, but it's really true. It's the oldest city. But at the same time, it is the city that is very progressive in its sustainable goals and topics. You've witnessed some small examples of this here at the conference. As participants, you were able to taste a dish of the Nieuwe Winkel during the conference with its aims for sustainability. On the other side of the spectrum, it was our city's mayor himself who opened this conference, showing his deep commitment to this conference's aim and theme. As Radboud University, we are very proud to have been important in this city for over exactly 100 years, because last week we celebrated our 100th year in Nijmegen. And As a university, we have sustainability as a leading strategic theme. Based on our mission, we really want to contribute to a healthy and free world with equal opportunities for all. That is our mission. As a broad university, we have a traditionally strong reflective character, and we think that we are suited to have such a broad goal and theme as our mission. After all, the global sustainability challenges require the involvement of all fields and scientific disciplines and collaboration between them. And that is why Radboud University decided 2 years ago that sustainability will be included in all study programs. All students will see that, because we think it is important that a growing group of students, young people, instead of being overwhelmed or even paralyzed by the prospective side of the problems that are coming towards us, and even actual problems already here, that they experience that they can really do something, that they actually can study this, that they learn something about sustainability, that they contribute something. In the first place, they will see that the discipline that they have chosen, in which they are educated, has a relevant relationship with the sustainability issues. Whether they study law or psychology or medicine or biology or communication sciences, that's my own field, or business administration, sustainability is always in some way relevant in their program, and vice versa. Their program has something to say or something to contribute in working on sustainability, be it in understanding it or communicating about it or enhancing it or all of the above. Now, the knowledge that they are offered in these educational programs must be and is solidly based in scientific research. And that is increasingly inter- and transdisciplinary, and we've heard that in the plenary. Now, some good examples of such research include the Healthy Landscape Consortium here in Nijmegen. It's a large collaboration between ecologists, policy and communication scientists, lawyers, historians, among others. And with Healthy Landscape, the Radboud University wants to scale up and accelerate innovations that have proven positive effect on biodiversity. Another example of such research is provided by the One Planet Research Center. That is a multidisciplinary collaboration between Wageningen University and Research, the Radboud University and the Radboud University Medical Center, and IMEC. And they use the latest chip and digital technologies to create a society in which everybody can live healthily and have access to healthy and sustainable food. And finally, the Radboud Center for Sustainable Challenges itself is a good example. This network was established several years ago as a hub where interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary collaboration is promoted between more than 200 scientists around all sustainability challenges. And it is this movement in research on sustainability issues that is of great importance for inter and transdisciplinarity. After all, the urgency and complexity of these issues require good cooperation between scientific areas and cooperation with sustainability stakeholders. This Earth System Governance Conference is a great example of what can come from such broad collaboration. In addition to an undoubtedly fascinating program that you've enjoyed, all participants during the past week, this conference advances our thinking about inter- and transdisciplinary research on transformative change. And I think that panel showed us just now how much this requires of all of us. I sincerely hope that with the Nijmegen agenda on transformative, interdisciplinary and transdisciplinarity in Earth system governance, that the impact of this conference will not be limited to this, what we joined this week, but it will bring forth jointly formulated guiding insights to build on worldwide. And let me quote here from the Nijmegen agenda, and I'm looking for my last page, which I think is right there. Thank you so much. You can see what a new week does for you. And I've had wonderful speaking notes, and I'm quoting from them because the Nijmegen agenda, I must say, for me as a communication specialist, is a bit new. So I told Marije, I will dive deep into this, but I'll do this in the next few months and not now in the first week. So I'll quote from that, and I think this is very important, and also I learned from it myself, that accelerated global climate change, biodiversity loss, and growing inequalities are just a few of the environmental and societal challenges that require collaboration between the different stakeholders, societies, and knowledge systems. Better interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary collaboration, that is, between different disciplines and societal actors, can provide vital contributions to addressing global sustainability challenges. The Nijmegen agenda aims to serve as a roadmap for promoting collaborative efforts that transcend disciplinary boundaries and engage stakeholders from diverse sectors of Earth system governance research, with a view to address and accelerate sustainability transformations. It does so by building on the 2018 Science and Implementation Plan of Earth System Governance Project. And it further supports all ESG researchers to access and engage with interdisciplinarity and transdisciplinary. End of quote. And I would like to add, for us, this is also a mirror for our teaching and educational programs, because we should not wait until students have had their diploma with this type of work. I think that we need to engage our students in this interdisciplinarity and transdisciplinary work to see in their own program what people in other programs are doing in these types of problems, and they should work with allies in society. And this is one of the aims that I have as a rector, and this conference, this panel showed me how very important this is. So I hope to work together with Nijmegen researchers, and I think that we need each other from all over the world to teach our students that the problems of this world should not end or start at the end of their program, but should be involved and deep in their programs here and elsewhere. So that is my concluding word. I thank everybody once again who contributed to this great conference that is encouraging, and it shows where the power of collaboration lies. And I hope that we can work together on this topic, because each of you has a part to play. That's the motto of our university, and I thank everybody for their attention. Thank you.
Thanks, Rector, for these really encouraging remarks. Thanks. All right, it's my honor to get you home. When I was sitting here listening to the plenary panel, I was caught again by the richness and the reflectiveness and the truth of the discussion that took place. And I'm so proud of our network of the Earth System Governance Project for enabling such true discussion. That's what we are. And I'm so happy to have been able to enable this past week. This is my home conference, right? I've been seeing you for years, and I'm really proud of what we are. All right, so the rest of this is going to be fun, and it's going to be messy, which I always enjoy. So first of all, thanks to the Scientific Steering Committee of the Earth System Governance Project for the confidence in the Radboud for trying to host you this year. And I just want to, I have a long list of thank yous. And we're going to make this fun. So a huge thanks to everyone involved, and I'm going to list lots of organizations and people, and I want to invite everyone that I name up here. So we really struggled to find a room large enough for all of us, and this is the largest room on campus. So it has lots of space there, but it doesn't have a lot of space here. But we're gonna try it out. So I'm gonna call you up. So everyone who's been involved in organizing this, please come up when I name your organization or your name, and then we'll see whether we fit on this tiny little stage. So first of all, the co-hosts and donors of the conference, IDAS, PBL. So if you're working for these organizations, please come on down. The National University of Singapore, York University, Future Earth and the Earth Commission, the City of Nijmegen. I don't think they're here, but that's fine. Of course, a huge thanks. I'm going to continue this, so everyone, you know, we're going to end up empty there and full here. That's my strategy. A huge thanks, of course, to the Earth System Governance Project, and especially the team of the International Project Office. I'm looking at all of you. Jane Butler, Camille Thibault, Vera de Jong, Willow Molenaar. Without you ladies, this would have not been possible. Then others who stepped up the last months or weeks or even days to really help us out in this really dynamic process of organizing this conference. Dana Serey, Jayaram, Veronica Korber, Thijs Ribeiro, and Sebi Bliss, who organized the South-South Dialogue and the Early Career Day. I know, I saw Sebi up there. Yeah. This team really did it all independently. We had 2 wonderful days, and you pulled it off together without much help from us, but of course lots of help from the IPO office, I know. And then of course the Radboud team, Birka, come on up. Sander Chan, conference director. Christina Inoue. So Christina, come on down, Christina. Rowdy Lemaire, Rowdy, you're hiding there in the back. Come on down. Come on. Yeah. Conference manager, head of logistics. And Susanna Bignell, I hope you're watching from at home. She is unfortunately ill today. And many other colleagues at Radboud who helped out in many, many ways. Adam Kahlo, I don't know whether you're here, worked on communications. Peter Scholte, who actually coordinated the excursion program. The other colleagues who organized some of the specific excursions. Ad Ragas, of course, who hosted the co-director of the Radboud Center for Sustainability Challenges, who hosted our mayor. Yvonne Kremers of our department secretariat, who managed all kinds of logistical issues. Our communications colleagues to promote the conference, our logistics colleagues, including the catering. I'm afraid if everyone who was involved in catering would come up here, it would really not fit. Our ICT colleagues, colleagues from the ICT colleagues from Radboud, but also the folks from AV+. Please don't come down here because our online... Carlijn Hendricks, Ellen Chappell, Jillian Student, Katrien Rietig, and others who helped with the Nijmegen agenda, and Katrien for organizing the Oran Young Prize. The over 80 volunteers that helped us manage this week. So any volunteer, come on down, please. Come on. Woo! And of course, many other colleagues who helped us in so many different ways. Also, much thanks to the support of the Radboud organization and also the leadership. I can't see her anymore. The leadership of Radboud, who were really supportive of us taking on this ridiculously large task. Everyone, really everyone didn't go the extra mile, but actually ran an extra marathon. There are two women who I really want to thank. They were two student assistants. You wouldn't say they're student assistants, but they are, who've been part of the core organizing team since the start of this year, and without whom this conference would not be here. Tegan Wilkinson, are you around? So Tegan was our volunteer coordinator among many, many, many other things. And of course we have a... Tegan, here, come here. We have a small gift for you. And last but absolutely not least, Marit Tophoven, who has played a central role in really the organization of the conference. Marit, come on here, please. Yeah.
And of course, we have someone else to thank, who has done a lot of the thanking today. On behalf of the Earth System Governance Project and the International Project Office, every Monday morning, you can close your eyes if you like, at 10 a.m. For the last year, there's been about 8 to 11 people on a call. And we learned the Dutch working culture very quick, which was very horizontal. Everybody could speak their mind on every item. And I certainly enjoyed it. I think from the beginning, working with the Radboud team, they came with a vision, a very strong vision. They came, and it was really exciting because every meeting, we actually built every detail around that vision. Secondly, they came with hours and persistence, so they just worked incredibly hard. I know like Nijmegen agenda weekends became a thing, which I don't encourage, but... and thirdly, they came with friendship and openness, and we've all had a lot of fun together. And so yeah, I just want to thank the whole team. Ingrid has named all of them, but especially the co-chairs and the conference director, and which Sander and Christina. So yeah, thank you very much, and then I'll let Ingrid close it. And one more thing, we have a couple of gifts for the 8 core team, just with a little photo memory on it. Ingrid famously doesn't like bouquets of flowers, so we're doing potted plants and some very sustainable options.
All right, thank you.
And of course, yeah.
Oh, well, it's great. Thank you. All right. We fit on the stage. That's amazing.
Sorry, Ingrid, I forgot. And also, Louis would like to say a word on behalf of the SSC.
Sorry. Thank you. Sorry, I'm just very quickly chipping in. There's a lot of thanks, and from the heartfelt thanks from the part of the SSC, specifically to Ingrid, to Berka, to Sander, to Christina, to Marit, to Tegan, to Rowdy, and to Susanna for your absolutely incredible work and for making us feel so very much welcome and at home here. We can have 20 more of exactly these conferences for the next 20 years.
No way. Okay, with that, I want to, of course, also thank all of you for participating in the conference, because what is a conference without participants? For the rich discussions, like I said, for the real discussions, for the discussions that I learned so much from. So thank you for contributing to making this a learning experience, not only everyone who's traveled to Nijmegen, but also to the folks online. So with that, for those of you who are lucky enough to go through yet another day tomorrow during the Task Force Day, have a great Task Force Day. And for everyone who has to leave, safe travels home. And see you at the next Earth System Governance Conference. If you're thinking about organizing it, we have a wonderful playbook that you can that is freely available, and it's something that I would really recommend doing because it's really a transformative experience. Safe travels home.